Good morning on what is a warm, bright and humid day. It is Sunday the 25th of June. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a parcel to unbox. So let's get to it. I'm very solidly glued. There we go. I want to use quite a bit of force here actually. That does not want to come unglued. Just to show you, I am working at this. There we go. Just to show you, that bit of paper there, that did not want to move. Okay, so what I've got in here, I think, is this, which is, well, I wasn't expecting this and this. And this, it's basically 3 volumes of the same book, which is Investigator Weapons Volume 3 for use with Call of Cthulhu, Gaslight Era. It's written by Hans-Christian Vortisch, who is an expert in firearms and has written numerous supplements for on the subject, most notably for GURPS, but has been basically hired to write a series of volumes on firearms for Call of Cthulhu by 60 Stone Press. Now, I have edited each of the 3 books in the series so far, which have covered the 1920s and 30s. That's book 1. Book 2 is the modern day, and book 3 is Gaslight. But that also covers, so when they cover Gaslight, that does mean that they cover both really United Kingdom, because when you think of Gaslight, you do think of the Victorian era, and it also covers the Wild West, essentially the America as well. We've got various quotes on it. Always carry a firearm east of Aldgate, Watson, Arthur Conan Doyle, The Adventure of the Creeping Man. The last decades of the 19th century see the transition from black powder to cordite and the birth of the modern firearm. Investigator Weapons Volume 3 for Gaslight and Wild West presents a carefully chosen selection of weapons for use with the late 19th century Call of Cthulhu investigators and keepers. I make no apology for detailing it at length, as every experienced hunter will know how vital a proper supply of guns and ammunition is to the success of an expedition. H. Rider Haggard, King Solomon's Mines. Investigator Weapons 3 covers handguns, rifles, shotguns, machine guns, melee weapons, explosives and special ammunition, and gathers together all the spot rules for injury, environmental conditions and firearms combat in one place, as well as introducing many optional rules for enhanced play. Each weapon is illustrated and described in detail, as are variant models. Succinctly, each weapon's operation is described, as are its typical malfunctions. Finishing each weapon description is the movie use of the weapon, so you can see it in action, and a comprehensive statistics bar. Keepers are not forgotten either. Typical weapons for non-player characters are suggested, as are likely weapons for cultists from around the world. A Keeper's chapter examines the consequences of magic on firearms and ammunition, and the effect of firearms on mythos creatures. Hans-Christian Vortisch, author of Investigator Weapons 1, the 1920s and 30s, Investigator Weapons 2 in modern day, Cthulhu Waffen Handbook, which is the weapons book that was published probably by Pegasus Spieler for the German edition of Call of Cthulhu, and GURPS High-Tech Adventure Guns and GURPS Tactical Shooting, has selected several dozens of the most iconic or typical weapons available to the discerning shooter from the 1860s to the 1900s. These range from the famous Colt 45 single-action army revolver and the Martini Henry rifles to lesser-known but more widespread firearms. Immediately after Heaton's mad return, 3 desperate and determined men have gone out to the Lone Hill together, heavily armed and with spades and pickaxes. Zelia Bishop and H.P. Lovecraft the Mound. Investigator Weapons 3, the essential book for keepers and players of all editions of Victorian Era, Call of Cthulhu, Cthulhu by Gaslight, and Down Darker Trails. So this has been released in, probably in PDF earlier, but has come back in a new edition to be in line with Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Let's find out what is inside. So we have contents page, and the basic credits and contents page. Section on the armed investigator, realism, and then sort of like look at section on the realism, looks at various things to do with combat, especially gun combat. So confusion, fright, death and injury, gunfight survival, combat consequences. So what's important there really is the fact that there is an inherent danger in using firearms. They will get the player characters, the investigators, noticed. The player characters can injure themselves. They can get injured. They can be frightened, basically, because combat is scary, and that doesn't often come into play because most characters sort of just pick up a gun and fire it. But if you're up against someone who's much better at you, it can be an scary experience. Optional rules include skill competency. And we've got additional skills here like artscraft, gunsmith, martial arts, offhand shooting, firearms, and tactics. Let me see, concealed weapons, quick draw, reloading and speed loading. And these are all kind of optional rules. It depends how you want to handle firearms in the game. Shooting stances, core shots, and, the rules are all there if you want to use them. It depends how whether you want to make and emphasize the role of firearms in your game. It's not a case of the firearms. The firearms, of course, are going to be generally useless against the mythos who are using them against human opponents, whether they're cultists or bandits or whatever. We've also got rules for fanning and slip firing and automatic fire. But the rules are here in this book if you want them to be. Dodging, shooting in darkness. And a lot of this is repeating the rules from the earlier books because the same situations apply. And then different environments like shooting in fog, shooting in the cold, shooting into and underwater, shooting from a mount or vehicle, both likely during this period. Armor penetration, disarming. And then we get into weapons and the law, and this is looking at weapon permits across many legal states. So it starts off with the USA, Australia, France, Canada, all the way down to the United Kingdom. It covers the major points that you would think of, including India, and then we have how to get a gun. And places, we've got a list here of renowned gun dealers from the period. And then we have basically things like criminal investigations involving guns, practical hints for arming the Gaslight Investigator, which kind of goes back to, you go back to the handbook for the Theron Mark Society, which says, the best solution, always grab a shotgun and strap a torch to the barrel. And then the bulk of the book consists of weapon stats. So we've got an explanation of all the weapon stats, before we get onto the actual listings of the guns, and this is done by firearm type. Before that, we've got investigator weapons by occupation. So a farmer would typically own a cheap shotgun to deal with vermin or kill small games, such as a Baker Hamlet's gun, Greener Keeper's gun, converted M1863 musket or Remington No. 1, or a uniformed police officer. In New York, police officers carry a baton and are mandated to supply their own 38 caliber revolver. Copies in the London Metropolitan Police carry a No. 1 truncheon and may have access to a Webley MP revolver. So, handguns. Start off with the Adams Mark III, and then it's going to list them throughout. So essentially what we have here in each section, we have description, stats at the end, scenes where, you know, they might be seen in a movie, so you get an idea of what they look like. We have the first sort of like automatic pistols here, as well as revolvers. And you're just going to go through this list, you know, section by section. You know, and these are commonly known. Most of these are commonly known firearms. Some are lesser, but it's all interesting. If you're interested in firearms, this is an interesting book. If you're not interested in firearms, well, that's fine. But at least what you can do with this book is go in and go, okay, what can I arm my investigator with, which would be interesting, not necessarily the best or the most detailed, most damage dealing weapon, but the most interesting, perhaps the most appropriate. I've got the same, for example, here's a Colt New Navy M1889, and then you can do the same with the with your NPCs. So here we've got a Colt Single Action Army. There you go. Basically, you've got guns, as I said, from the United Kingdom, from the Old West, and so on. Some known, some not. But I mean, your NPCs. Okay, he's got a gun. Yes, fine, he's going to fire at you. But when you find out what gun he's got, okay, you know, it's a little bit of verisimilitude, a little bit of kind of setting material that adds to it. So you've got a huge section on pistols and firearms. We even have a Greener double grip pistol, you know, almost a essentially weapon with external hammers. So it looks, you know, almost like a mini shotgun. So, you know, multi-barrel pistols. Then we have Limat grape shot revolver, you know, basically with an extra barrel, loaded with a sort of like buckshot round. Mauser C96. So we've got Remington double Derringer, weapon of last resort. And, you know, there are options in here, you know, for example, this is the Smith & Wesson No. 3 Russian, but add in that, you know, there it is with a shoulder stock, and that's representative in the stats as well. So I'm just going to flip through. We've got a section on body armour. Before we get on to rifles, you know, a Greener elephant rifle or Henry repeating rifle, a Giselle for arming your tribesmen on the northwest frontier, Lee Metford Mark 1, arming your soldiers of the British Army, or the Martini Henry Mark 1. Remington 2, another cane rifle. So you've got oddities and interesting weapons in here as well. To a Springfield M1863. So plenty of a good mix of rifles, and of course Winchester models like the M1873. In the 1892, and it does the same thing for shotguns. I'm not going to show you all these because otherwise it'll get sort of like here's another gun, here's another gun. But here's the thing: it said, you know, it's a source book that's there if you want it. It does help. Then we have Winchester model from 1893. Then we move on to machine guns. So we start off with the Colt automatic gun model 1895. But more famously, we have the Gatling gun and Maxim automatic gun, ammunition and accessories, firearm accessories, melee weapons, even a hand grenade fire extinguisher, that you know, basically defined as basically a hand grenade that you throw on a fire to extinguish it. Explosives, because you know where there's, I mean, you know, you're going to be, for example, explosives have gone off. They're actually easy to buy, relatively easy to buy throughout the period. You know, you could be mining, you could be attempting to open a tomb. And then we have a select, actually quite a lengthy bibliography. Keeper's Appendix, detailing on how to fight the Mythos. Possible countermeasures. List of potential cultist weapons. Here we have the index. Rule summary. Basically, this is the rule summary for Call of Cthulhu 6th edition. And then, essentially, just the tables of guns at the end. Several pages of those. And that's it. That is essentially Investigator Weapons 3, Volume 3 for use with Call of Cthulhu in the Gaslight Era, covering essentially the Victorian period and the Wild West, published by 60 Stone Press. Now, I mean, the thing is, I did work on this, but it's a useful source book. I think anyway, I would have given it a solid review because of the amount of research and detail and historicity and the verisimilitude that you can use to bring to your game. I mean, it's not necessarily that I'm necessarily fascinated by guns per se, but it's an interesting subject, and it can be this gives you ways and means in which that subject can be brought into your Call of Cthulhu game. Anyway, thanks for watching the unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all, of course, accompanied with a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.